Hi everybody, this is Tammy from the Forgiveness Connection coming to you live for your episode number 67 of Forgiveness on the Fly. Today we're going to talk about a traumatic childhood. So this is your disclaimer that if that's something that you've suffered through and you haven't fully done your healing work on, this might not be a good thing to watch if you're feeling down or you're alone. So I just want to make sure you have the love and support in place from a trusted friend or family member, or that you have somebody else there with you while you're watching this video. So we're going to go ahead and begin, but that's your disclaimer that this might be a tough one. If you have had a childhood where there was abuse, neglect, or what the ACE study, which is what studied kind of the happenings between birth and 18 years old, talks about a thing called household dysfunction. And that basically means there's a single parent home, there's incarceration of one of the parents, there's mental health or suicide ideation of one of the parents, or heavy depression, and there is just this lack of a full family unit where you can feel all of the love and support. Then this might not be a video that you want to watch on your own today. So I'm going to go ahead and begin with some affirmations I would do with somebody that comes in here to the office and they are struggling with a traumatic childhood and trying to heal from a traumatic childhood. Okay, so let's go ahead and begin. I've got my forgiveness card that I'm going to be using for some of the statements. Okay. I forgive myself for believing it's always going to look this way in my life, and I can never heal from the childhood that I got. Deep breath in. I forgive myself for believing that I would have to go back to childhood and things would have had to have worked out differently for me to be able to move past all of the pain and trauma of my childhood. Deep breath in. I forgive myself for believing my parents would have had to change and God would have had to protect me from the bad things that happened, and that the only way for me to forgive this, actually, I just can't even forgive it. It doesn't feel like it's possible for me to forgive everything that happened to me as an innocent child. Take a deep breath in. I forgive myself for believing I have to struggle in relationships now based on this early trauma childhood memory where my basic needs weren't met, people that should have protected me didn't, and bad things happened to me either physically, emotionally, or even sexually. Deep breath in. I raise my level of acceptance to forgiving the people whose hands I was hurt by. Deep breath in. I raise my level of acceptance to believing in a God that would allow this to happen to a child, or my level of acceptance to believing that this happening isn't God's fault. And deep breath in. I forgive myself for anything I believed was my fault back then that would have been reasoning, if you will, for the bad things that happened to me. And deep breath in. I call up all of this old history of childhood pain and suffering and unmet needs and abuse at the hands of people that said they loved me, people that were responsible for me, and people that birthed me. And I release all of that pain and sadness and hurt to divine love and gratitude from God. And deep breath in. I forgive myself for believing that I can't forgive my mom for what she did, or my dad for what he did, or my step-parent for what they did, that the only way for it to be forgiven is for us to be able to go back and their behavior to change. Deep breath in. I forgive myself for believing that the forgiveness is for them, and I want to hold them responsible, and I want them to pay for what they did, and I want them to burn in hell for what they did, and I want them to suffer the way they made me and my siblings suffer. And I acknowledge that the real truth is forgiving them doesn't let them off the hook. Forgiving them does not make them not responsible. Even if they never got in trouble, never went to jail, forgiving them just opens massive space where God can right the wrongs. And I'm not holding a blank check for what they owe me for the pain they caused. That I'll never get. I'd never get that blank check from that person. That person let me down. They're probably still letting me down today. And although people change, that's a hard pattern, the one of abuse and neglect, to change, especially if the person isn't around anymore. There's no opportunity for change. So I step out of that middle space of what they owe me, and I let God go for the compensation that's owed for me. And I trust him with what he decides is the right thing. And deep breath in. I forgive myself for coming from a family like that. Deep breath in. I forgive myself for believing I'm unworthy because of the family I was born into and the circumstances I was dealt in early life. Deep breath in. I forgive myself now for my constant control and my micromanaging of my life and my kids and my emotions and my everything that makes me get a false sense of security that those bad things can never happen again. The truth is, I'm not a kid anymore, so I have more protection. I can run away, walk away, fight back, all those things I couldn't do when I was little. Deep breath in. I forgive my body for going into a trauma state and going into a trauma brain and a disassociation and a phase 1 trauma that like has me solving every problem 150 times over and over different ways to make sure I never get hurt like that again. Deep breath in. I forgive the people that didn't help me, the people that didn't fight for me, the people that didn't know I was getting abused, the teachers, the friends, the family members that allowed it to happen or didn't take action to stop it when I was little. Deep breath in. I forgive myself now for the mean things and the hurtful things and the aggressive actions I have towards my own kids and my own husband and my own family that are a full-on product of where I came from and what it feels like when I lose control and try to regain it again. And deep breath in. Without this pattern of a traumatic childhood, the pattern of abuse, the pattern of neglect, the pattern of dysfunction, I'm free to show up feeling safe in relationships where I set good boundaries, relationships where I can walk away, relationships where all of the expectations are put out on the table from the beginning, and I'm allowed to walk away if mine aren't met. Deep breath in. Without this pattern, I can truly believe that sometimes things just happen to you. It's not your fault. You didn't do anything to cause it. You weren't a bad kid. You weren't a kid that asked for sexual abuse or a kid that asked for being physically harmed or neglected. It was the circumstances of your family, and those actions were wrong. Your mom was wrong. Your dad, your stepdad, your stepmom, your brother, your babysitter, whoever the person that harmed you is the wrongdoer. And you don't have to hold the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment and the control to make sure that never happens to you again or never happens to your kids. Deep breath in. Without this pattern, I'm free to love and accept myself, being grateful that I survived childhood. Deep breath in. Without this pattern, instead of feeling angry and resentful and bitter towards my family and what they did or didn't do in childhood, I can be so grateful to God that I got out alive, I'm on the other side, and that I am able to make changes for my generation that will absolutely catapult me forward catapult my kids forward into a better life that isn't one of abuse, neglect, sexual abuse, and household dysfunction. Deep breath in. I love and accept myself setting good boundaries with family and friends and my children now. Deep breath in. I love and accept myself forgiving the people that harm me, forgiving them for even the unthinkable acts that happened, not because I want them to be let off the hook, but because I want to open the space for me and God to heal and God to right the wrongs. And I can't be standing in the middle holding what they're owed in order to get God to take action. God takes action when I let go and step out of the space, and it's free for him to do his righting and wronging. And deep breath in. Without this pattern, I'm free. I can love and accept myself, not being identified by the things that happened to me in childhood. I'm a sexually abused child. I'm a child that was abused. I can identify myself with the worth and the value that God absolutely placed in the womb when my broken mother and my broken father had me. And I can feel God's love and value even when everybody around me let me down, but not him. Deep breath in. Without this pattern, I'm free. I can love and accept myself, and I can let go of the childhood trauma from my past. And I can trust absolutely that I'm moving forward for a future that's better for my kids than what I experienced for myself. Deep breath in. One more deep breath in. All right, guys, that's it for today. Those were your affirmations for forgiveness, for suffering a childhood trauma, whether that was a sexual abuse, an emotional abuse, a physical abuse, or just a household dysfunction where you didn't feel like you had the things you needed to survive. This is Tammy with the Forgiveness Connection, reminding you that forgiveness truly is key to healing the trauma and the hurts in your life that are happening now and that were happening back then. Reach out if you want a forgiveness card. I'd love to mail you one. And if you are interested in doing some work together, I'd love to see you at my new office location. We're at 112 West 4th North Street, located inside Precision Chiropractic. And we would love to help you work through the pain of your past. Thanks, guys. Have a great night.